same nursing home.
Hello, lovely to have you with us. Pop your names in the chat box because there will be opportunities to call upon you today. There's some questions and reflections and activities. So if we know who you are, that'd be fabulous. Just pop your names in the chat box for me. Brilliant. Fabulous. Right, recording's on. We can get going. Welcome to the first session in our Empowering Emerging Leaders series with Dr. Claire Mould. Claire is a fellow of the Institute. She is also founder and director of Curve Strategic and CEO of Heart of England MenCap. Now, today's session is all around the importance of emotional intelligence, why it's fundamental in the workplace, and how to embed this practice within your teams. Claire's got some slides for us today. We will share a copy with today's recording post-event. It is designed to be interactive, so if you can have your camera on, it'd be lovely to see you. There'll be opportunities to unmute, ask questions, contribute towards some of these activities and reflections that Claire's got for us today, and also use the chat box to introduce yourself, network, or if you haven't got access to a microphone, to ask questions in there, and I'll read them out for Claire. I'm Jade Maloney, Operations Manager at the Institute. I'll pop my email in the chat box for you if you'd like to get in touch with me about anything that happens during today's event, questions, etc., as well as Claire's email for you. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Claire Mould and we'll get going with today's session. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Jade. Hi, welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. As Jade said, this is an interactive session, in as much as, you know, there are going to be lots of activities through it that you can think about. The reason I do that is going to be rammed right the way through. We call this a power hour because we're going to be going through an awful lot of information, but you will have all of that information to take away with you. But I know your time is precious, so I want you to get as much as you possibly can. So the activities that we do, don't panic if you think, oh gosh, he gives us an unrealistically short time to go through them. The reason that I do those is because they are takeaway activities for you to think about at a later stage, and also to take back and do with your teams, so you can really get the very most of this hour. But obviously, we want to get some feedback from you. We want it to be interactive. So, well, there are times that I might just say, well, let's just spend a couple of minutes thinking about that, that when you go back, you might want to spend 10 minutes doing it, or if you're doing it with your teams. Okay. And there are some times when I've got the slides up that I can't always see you, but Jade's all very good saying, oh, actually, that Katie's got a question or got a hand up or would like to say something or has put something in the chat, and I'll stop. So yes, there will be times where I'll invite you to be interactive after the activities and feedback, but please, 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 at any point, if you just want to throw in something, have a question or a point of clarification, or even just say, actually, I'd just like to share something because it's interesting, that wasn't my experience, or that was my experience. I have no problems with that. Wherever this journey goes for the next X hour, I promise you two things. One, we will get through all of the slides, and two, we will finish at 2:30. Okay, wonderful. So I will now start sharing my screen and we will get going. So hopefully this is the bit that everybody that we will be able to see. Where are we? It's I'm doing the team here, and I'm just having a look to see where my PowerPoint seems to have hidden. Excuse me, taking my glasses off. It's because I'm 103 and can't see without them. Well, that's really, really bizarre because I've got my slides open here, but you can't see them. So bear with me. I'm shutting it and then going to cancel that and then opening it again. We put ourselves, we were gremlins there, Jade, weren't we? Because we did this, but for some reason my share can't.
We did, Claire. I can share them on your behalf if you'd like me to. Would that be easier?
Oh, if that's okay, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Yes. There we go.
Wonderful. That's great. I just need to now find out. There we are. Right, we are off. Bless you, Jade. She is absolutely wonderful. So if you're able to share those, that's really good. So just to start off, and also that works out very well because it means that I will be able to see you. Right, Mac, you've got your hand up immediately. Is it because you can't see the slides?
A blank screen with Jade's name.
Yeah, I can't see them either.
Really irritating things like
I am sharing. Let me reshare. Bear with me 1 second.
I'm glad I'm not the only one with gremlins. There's obviously
They were coming up.
Yes, Teams keeps updating things, and I don't think that that's always
Let's
great.
do it this way and then go in manually. So you should be able to
That's it. I can see it now.
There we
Have
go.
you got them now?
Fabulous.
Ah, perfect. Wonderful. So, hooray, hooray. Right. So what we're going to cover today is the session headlines are what is emotional intelligence? Okay, so just generally have a talk because it's a word that is bandied around and people talk about EI, but actually to get complete clarity on what emotional intelligence is and why it is fundamental in the workplace, leading on to how effective leadership can ensure that emotional intelligence is genuinely established and embedded, because it's all very well saying that, oh yeah, it's really important, but actually what do you need to be thinking of as an effective leader to ensure that it's established and embedded? So then that'll lead us on to, so what does it look like and why is it effective? And then how can you actually put this in practice? I don't want anybody to leave today thinking, yeah, that was really good, but I don't know how that would work for us. I want everybody to have to think, oh yeah, I've got some real actual takeaways here that I can start doing as part of my development as a leader, but also to develop my teams. And then leading on to the positive impact that emotionally intelligent leadership has on the workplace. So thank you, Jade. So basically, the simple thing is emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of and control your own emotions. That is absolutely key. Often people think that emotional intelligence is just, oh, actually, yeah, I'm really, really sympathetic, I'm really, really supported. And they see it as a real soft skill. And that infuriates me because actually emotional intelligence doesn't have to be a soft skill at all. It is simply the capacity to be aware of and control your emotions, and therefore the skill to handle relationships carefully and empathetically. That might be, even if it's the most difficult of conversations, whether it might be a disciplinary meeting, it might be just one of those thorny conversations that you have with members of the team, but you can still handle it carefully and empathetically. Now, remember, empathetically doesn't always mean that you completely agree with the end game of that person, but you are showing that you appreciate their perspective. You might not agree with it, but you appreciate it. And then that allows you to recognize their emotions in both yourself and others, and that you use these in constructive ways. We don't use it. So, for example, emotionally intelligent leaders, show that if they see that somebody is actually quite intimidated in a group, you wouldn't then turn around and say, well, actually, you've been quite quiet. Why don't you come? You've not really said anything. You'd be able to read that actually they don't really feel happy doing that. And one of the best ways that I found that, that happened for me, because I've always quite liked being the one that's asked to do things. No surprises there, as I ended up doing this for a living. But, so I always used to go into, when I was very first into leadership, I think I want to make sure that everybody around the table has an opportunity to say something. And that everyone says, and because I want to bring everybody in, everybody's inclusive, I want to hear everyone's voice. And then somebody sort of took me to one side once and they said, actually, could you not do that all of the time? Because I really, really hate that. And I said, I'm sorry, I just wanted to make you feel included. And I said, because I want you to feel part of the meeting. And they said, yes, I do, but you enjoy talking and verbally participating as being part of the meeting. I don't. I participate in a way whereas that makes me really anxious. And that was really good learning for me as a young leader, because I thought, yeah, I am making an assumption that everybody's feeling the same about this as I am, because I would be the one that would be waiting for someone to ask my view. Whereas they were saying, actually, no, that absolutely fills me with fear, and I just spend the whole meeting dreading that you're going to ask me something. And so that was some really good learning. And that's why, again, that bit about being self-aware, holding a mirror up to ourselves, because I thought I was positively delightful and I was actually quite intimidating to somebody. But you use that in a constructive way. Sometimes people notice weakness and they actually use that against them, or they think that, you know, and it's, if you don't really understand somebody, you can use things in a, even if it's subconscious bias, use it in an unconstructive way. The key thing is that we've got to be aware that communications can leave you feeling content and connected, but equally, no matter how well-meaning they are, like my example that I just gave, they may leave you feeling upset and alienated, even if that isn't the intent of somebody. And you're thinking, no, but that isn't what I meant. I was trying to be inclusive. We've got to be aware that they may leave you feeling like that. Thank you, Jade. So what we're going to do, we're going to get straight now into thinking about this mixture between our head and our heart. And I had a very interesting debate with somebody about this before, because I had to make a decision. And I said, unfortunately, because of the financial nature of it, I have got to go, you know, with my head on that, because the longevity of it will help people. And the person said, yes, but sometimes the heart, you know, will out. And I had to sort of say, well, actually, on this occasion, it's not that I don't sympathize, but if we do this investment to enable this group of people to do this, all these other groups won't be able to do this. And that isn't fair. You know, so yes, my heart says, yes, please go and do that, because that's a lovely activity. That's a lovely idea. But my head is having to say, emotional intelligence is bringing those two together. And we're cross-referencing those all of the time. Thank you, Jade. So our activity, very, very simple one, but it's a good one to do with your teams, and it's a good one to share, but it's a good one to reflect ourselves. Reflect on an interaction that left you feeling content and connected. And then the deeper level is, why was it you felt like that? And then the other point is, reflect on an interaction that left you feeling upset and alienated. And why was that? So again, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes. When you go away from here, you spend far more, but just have a couple of minutes just immediately thinking, and either put them in the chat, or, you know, feel free to put your hand up and, you know, let us know, and then you can just sort of talk about those, whatever's best for you. You'll be very grateful, Jade, that now you're doing that. I can actually see everybody and I can see the chat now you're doing that. So you don't have to work as my PA doing this. Okay, if we start coming together like this, is just to start thinking. Has anybody would like to share what they're thinking at all? Any examples? It's not compulsory, these are for you to take away, but anybody like to share anything? And we should say, just to reiterate, that anything that's shared today, even though it's recorded, anything that's shared, you know, there is sort of a bond of confidentiality around here. It goes no further, and Jade will reinforce that at the end. So feel free to share however much you want. It will never be used in a compromising way against you. Oh, Katie, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'll be brave and go for it and share
my
two examples. The first one, the content and connected one. So it was a conversation I had yesterday actually with a consultant that I work with. And it happens every time we actually have a conversation together that I'm left feeling this way, because she very much listens to me, and I know that I'm valued. There's equal times discussing a topic, and we both end up leaving quite animated and quite excited about the things we've had to discuss. And I know it's because we have similar approaches to things, and but it's been that being listened to, and that you know, my opinions are valued. So that's one where I felt content and connected.
Perfect. Thank you, Kate.
And then the other one, the upset and alienated, this is a home life one, because I couldn't think of anything outside, so I hope this is okay. I couldn't think of a work related
No,
one.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so this was a conversation with my husband, and a couple of days ago he'd received some mail around putting in place lasting power of attorney for his parents, and I wasn't aware this was happening, and I was very much excluded from the conversation. And whilst I appreciate they're his parents, I felt there was conversations we could have had, and it felt like him and his brother and his parents were sort of doing things, and I was being sort of kept out of the family. That's quite a personal one, I guess, to share, but it did leave me feeling a bit upset and alienated in relation to that. And that was probably around not knowing these discussions were happening, or not knowing what was happening, in quite an important thing I felt. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful.
No, thank you, Katie. That is incredibly helpful, and that's really good. And like I say, all of these, I mean, because we are a person, so and it is those things about feeling listened to and valued. And you'll see this comes a theme that will come out. So there were two absolutely key words that you've identified there, Katie, but also that bit of not feeling included, not feeling part of it. And then that kind of is almost the other bit, that you don't feel listened to and you don't feel valued. And if it makes you feel any better, there was a very similar conversation went on in my household, and there is a little bit of, you do know what I do for a living, don't you? You do know that I could actually make, and that was probably the reason I share that, is because that's probably where you were coming from, because you're thinking, you realise that I could actually make a valued contribution to some of these things.
Yes, very much.
So,
yeah.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, and I'm sure all of you will think things, but you can see again, these are so useful if you can go back with your teams and do it, but also yourself, because if we begin to go and see, well, how does that make us feel, we also move on and think, well, actually, does the things that we say, just purely because you're thinking, well, actually, they didn't need to be involved in that. I wasn't excluding, they just didn't need to be involved. But you think, but actually, but how does that make that person feel? Wonderful. Thank you, Jade. We'll carry on. So why is it fundamental? Already, as Katie's example shows, that is so fundamental, because it has a powerful effect on our ability to pursue meaningful, purposeful, professional lives. If we don't feel listened to, if we don't feel valued, then that is going to impact us with moving forward. We're going to start doubting ourselves. We're not going to feel supported to move forward. People who are emotionally intelligent have the ability to understand and influence the emotions and behavior of others. Again, this can be for good or this could be for bad. If you realize that you've got somebody who is a real rising star in your team, and you just think, but actually, if you're able to get in touch, go, but what do they need just to bring them up? And it might not be having a big mouth like me saying, oh, tell us what your ideas are, because that might completely intimidate them. But if you know them, you can gradually bring them out, or have a quiet word and say, you do realise what you contributed there was really excellent. Or I've noticed this piece of work that you've done, and it makes people feel, oh, actually, that does make me feel better. And if you've ever done that, and I'm absolutely sure that you have, the feedback of someone going, actually, thanks for noticing that, and you see people grow. So you're influencing the emotions and behavior, so it gives them more confidence to go on. Whereas if people are undermined, then that makes people shy. I was at a meeting, to be completely honest with you, I was at a meeting now, previously this morning, and somebody turned around and said, well, actually, you know, you appear really defensive about everything. And because I want to say, well, yes, because you're completely undermining everything that I'm saying. And I'm thinking, no, you've turned that round and you've made this confrontational. And it just, well, if when someone says that you're defensive, you know, it makes you, it just gets you back up a little bit, you know. And I'm just thinking, whether if they would have turned around and said, Claire, you seem to look a little bit concerned about this. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit more about what your concerns are? Then I would have given me an opportunity to do that. Whereas I just then, you know, and it is that bit of, you could either turn somebody off or you can turn them on. And emotionally intelligent people know that. And that is essential because you will have a myriad of individuals that make up your teams. And they will all be very, very different cogs in this wheel. And that's what will make a strong team. But you've got to be able to know to draw out the best in each of them, which will then lead to that increased productivity and greater organizational growth, because you won't be pitting people against each other. You'll be drawing on their collaborative strength to get organizational growth. Whereas, as we've already heard and we've referenced, that poor communication can have a detrimental effect on organization, and it can have a negative effect on the individuals. When we're talking about other times about why people leave organizations, predominantly it isn't about the money, it's about how you made them feel. It is that bit that Maya Angelou always says, you can forget what people do, you can forget what people say, but you will never forget how people make you feel. And that is a huge responsibility for a leader. And we want to be the kind of leaders that people remember us by making them feel good about themselves, not demoralized about themselves. Thank you, Jay. So an activity that I'm going to do now, which leads on. So Katie was almost as if she'd been planted in the audience, about that ability to genuinely listen, because that's how we get to know how people feel, is actually just genuinely listen to them. And that's listen to every bit of them, not just what they're verbally saying, but generally pick up every little bit. So I am going to give you a little listening challenge. It's not a test because there's no right nor wrong answer. It's a challenge just to make you think. I am going to say 3 areas which are quite well-known topics. Okay. And it does, if you don't know them and you go, well, actually, I can't name the one that's missing because I don't know them, that's absolutely fine. But you get the idea. What you've got to do, don't write them down. No, you're only cheating yourselves. That what you need to do is listen and then say which one is missing. Okay. And I will tell you the first one is planets. And the answer I can tell you isn't Pluto. Pluto isn't involved there because Pluto has been identified that it's no longer a planet. So I'll just do that. I don't want arm wrestles at the end that people are doing that. So I'm going to give a list of planets. One of them will be redacted. Okay. Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Mercury. Okay, I'll repeat them. Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Mercury. Which planet has been redacted? The second one, we're going back. We've gone to the space. We're going history now. We're going to Henry VIII's wives. So I'm going to do a list. Again, one of them is redacted. Anne Boleyn, Catherine of Aragon, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Parr. I'll read them again. Anne Boleyn, Catherine of Aragon, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Parr. There's one wife that's been redacted. And then finally, we're going to the horoscope. Okay, so you don't have to have a space knowledge, history knowledge, you just your horoscope. And we all have, whether we choose to follow the zodiac or not. These are the zodiac signs of the zodiac. Okay, so, and no, I haven't done them in order because I've mixed them up because I'm making sure that you listen. So Aries, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Sagittarius, Virgo, Leo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay, so go again. Aries, Cancer, Taurus, Gemini, Sagittario, Scorpio, Leo, Virgo, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay, so what we're going to do is no writing down, and we'll come back to those later. So no writing between, because yeah, you probably all got them now, but we're going to carry on. Guess what we're going to do last before we say goodbye? Okay, so let's see how much that stays there. So every good conversation starts with good listening. Anybody who has spent more than 3 minutes in my company will know that one of my favorite phrases is, when we speak, seek to understand rather than be understood. And the only way you're going to understand is by doing more listening than hearing. We have a horrible habit of, when we're talking, preempting what when we're talking, preempting what people are saying, but then when they do, preempting our answers. So we're not actually properly listening. Okay, thank you, Jade. That's it. So emotion intelligence can only be genuinely embedded if there is effective leadership. Okay, so you are absolutely key as leaders to this. Organizations that are not led in an effective, emotionally intelligent way evidence emotionally exhausted employees, increase stress in the workplace. Okay, having a look and thinking about it, because it just chips away, chips away, chips away. Negative energy is far, far more wearing than positive energy. That leads to a significant drop in productivity and a substantial escalation in costs for both organisations and the government, because the amount of people, I'm going to come on to statistics in a bit, the amount of people that then are off because they have stress or mental health related issues as a result of being emotionally exhausted. And there's a spiral that is completely detrimental to all involved. So even if you don't kind of buy into it initially, you think, well, actually, it makes good business sense, which is why I say this isn't a wishy-washy, superficial thing. It makes good business sense to have an emotionally intelligent team supported by an emotionally intelligent leader. Thank you, Jade. So we now know that work-related stress and mental health now accounts for over half of all absences, and if left untreated can lead to serious mental health problems, which means that they are incredibly long-term. 57%, and that was in 2021. That is looking to increase at the moment. Over half feel worn out. Half of all employees feel worn out by work. I always say to my teams that we work in health and social care. There is not one day that I imagine that you won't be absolutely depleted when you're going home, because it is a challenging, really busy, non-stop job. But there is a difference between driving home with that intrinsic motivated feeling going, do you know what, I am absolutely exhausted, but that's been really, really good. That meeting was really, really great. Or I was really able to support that person with this. Or actually, do you know what, it wasn't a huge difference, but I think we're getting a bit of a breakthrough there. That's intoxicating. That gives you endorphins. So even though you're depleted, you're kind of buzzing in a depleted way. You kind of get this high off it. Whereas if it's the other way, you're driving home and you're worn out, absolutely emotionally worn out, that is draining. I know I've certainly been there. I sincerely hope that you haven't, but I suspect that people have. I've been to the point of I've got in the car and during my journey home, I've suddenly found myself crying. I don't know why. I'm not sort of like nothing suddenly, but I just sort of think, I can't give anymore. I'm absolutely, and that's the difference between, I'm not intrinsically motivated. I'm absolutely emotionally exhausted because I feel worn down. Because people have said, I'm just trying to make people realize how it feels for the individuals we're supporting. And I just keep being told that I'm just defensive all the time. Oh, that's Claire on her soapbox. That's emotionally exhausting, you know, and we need to be mindful of that. Thank you, Jade. Just think that feeling. How many of us can feel like that? That's a difference between being buzzing and blimey, really cold brother. Actually, you know, you always see that you put your, you know, your hands right almost through your eye sockets because you are just absolutely exhausted. Physical exhaustion feels very different to emotional exhaustion. Thank you, Jade. So the cost is 23% of adults say that work causes them stress. This is costing, and this was in 2023, we're just waiting for the new figures to come through, but 13.7 million working days are lost each year in the UK of work-related stress, anxiety and depression, which leads to £28.3 billion yearly. You know that great big deficit that we all want to be put into health and social care because we're all really, really struggling on funding. Look where the money's being spent. Look how we can also be proactive in helping that. There are some things that go on beyond our control. We can't stop everybody being off, but actually emotionally intelligent leaders are actually, evidence is showing that they are turning that around. And Deloitte's turned around and said, NICE is just looking at generically, but Deloitte is turning around saying that poor mental health is costing employers up to £45 billion a year across all the employees. These are huge, huge figures, and we are not taking them seriously. We need more emotionally intelligent leaders. Thank you, Jade. We go on, 76% of employees report moderate to high levels of stress. I'm leaving that to sit for a bit, because where would you sit on that? Where do you think your teams would sit on that? And then honestly, people turn around and say that 33% report that high levels of stress impact their productivity. However, where that may present itself, it might be subconsciously, but it does present itself. The top cause of work-related stress is workload. And I would précis that by saying it's perceptions of workload. It's not being supported to effectively manage. I do an awful lot of work with the teams that I support, turning around saying, and I mean that like and line manage, to turn around and say, actually, yes, we've all got really, really busy workloads, but what gets you? And they say, yeah, but I've just got so much to do. I don't know, I can't stop this kind of, yeah, because you're not effectively time managing. And again, in an emotionally intelligent way, sit down with them and say, right, so I'll sort of say about, right, so what are your priorities? What are your red lines that you really, really, that must be done? And then when you reflect on where you've spent your day, turning around and saying to them, well, look, let's have a look at this. Did you get that done? No, I didn't, because I got called into this and called into this. Okay. but being honest with yourself, was that worthwhile? Did you need to get called into that? I spoke to somebody, senior manager, really, really good, and they were on their way to support somebody to do something else, another service manager, and they let me know, said, I'll just let go. I didn't go there because I got another call on the way, so I got diverted. I said, no, hold on a minute. You got completely hijacked by something because they happened to call you, but you're on your way to do something. So that means you've now got to do that tomorrow. That person doesn't feel valued. And was that really essential? So workloads are going to be big in health and social care. But what we can do as emotionally intelligent leaders is we can help people to manage their workload, and also turn around and say, when you are leading something that for many of us, that's 24 hours, 7 days a week, you're never going to get to the end of your to-do list. And there will always be somebody that needs your time. One of the most rookie things I ever did was thinking that when people were emailing me at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, it's because I'm incredibly important and they must need my response there. So I'd be going, oh no, and it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, but I'm still replying to emails because they need this. It took me a while to realise that they predominantly were coming from people that were doing a waking night. And about 10 o'clock was when the people in the house that they were supporting were going to bed or quieting down a bit. So that was the first time they had to go to their admin. It wasn't because it was urgent. And I was thinking, why would somebody be contacting me 10 o'clock on a Saturday night? Actually, it wasn't that at all. It was because that's when they were able to do their admin because they're on a waking night. We've got to protect ourselves and our teams from saying, just because you work in a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week organisation doesn't mean that you are expected to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter where you are on a leadership frame. That isn't to say we don't need a little bit of stress, because that's what we get. He's saying, right, come on, let's do this, let's do that. And it enables them to thrive a little bit. I do struggle a bit when people say that they wholly thrive on stress, especially when I'm asking people for reports for meetings and things and they haven't done them yet, and they go, don't worry, I write better under stress, I'm going to do it tonight. I'm not altogether convinced by that, but I do take the fact that there's a little amount of stress, because you, again, being stressed is saying, this is showtime, this is you being valued. You are a leader. I have given you responsibility for that. And I won't lie to you, every single one of us, certainly me, there's a moment where you've actually been given the responsibility and you feel that cold sort of trickle down the back of the neck and you think, God, this is showtime now. I am. But I tell you what, there's no better feeling when you've done it and you think, do you know what, I could do that. I even surprised myself there. Whereas I'd get demoralised if I didn't have that stress. Thank you, Jade. So an activity, and again, we're going to do this very quickly because this is a really good one to take back, and I am conscious of time. Some of the most effective ways to reduce stress have been identified as exercise, socializing, positive work communications, nutrition, reading, celebrating, walking, stretching, meetings, as in having positive meetings or meeting up with people, and music. There's a cross section. Emotionally intelligent leaders don't turn around and say, right, what I'm going to do for a bit of team morale is we're all going to go off and do this, or we're going to do that. You allow people a plethora of different things to reduce their stress. Two very quick examples from me, while you're looking to think about what do you do to reduce your stress in your own time and in your workplace, and how frequently do you do that, is two things. One was I was joining somewhere and somebody turned around and said, oh, well, it's been really, really, really high end at the moment. It's really, really busy, really, really busy. And I was supporting them. And this manager went around and said, and she was being really, really fierce with, you've got to get to these targets. We've got to do this. We've got KPIs. We've got to do that. And then suddenly at the end of the week, turned around and said, right, what I think would be really, really good is we all could do with a team building exercise. We're all going to go, who wants to come camping for the weekend? And I think, what? And I could speak personally here because I did turn around, unfortunately, I was in a position of authority to turn around and said, that fills me with absolute fear and hate. That is a punishment for me, saying going camping for a weekend, not my thing. I don't mind it. I have done it when I was younger, but I did. It's one of the many things that I had when I turned 50. I thought, you know what? There are things in my life that I can actually just say, no, I'm not doing that now. I don't care. I've done it. I've done it when I was younger. I did it with my children when they were younger. I did it with friends when I felt obliged to, and families. But now I'm 50 and I'm going to turn around and say, no, you go and camp. I am not sleeping under canvas. Thank you. And that's fine. So that filled me with fear. But she thought it would be a really stress reducing thing. In the same way that some people say, yeah, let's all go out for a meal. That might antagonize people. Choose your own. But then think, okay, so this is what I do. But actually, how often do you do it? So anybody just quickly want to throw in while I've been burbling on? What do you do to reduce your stress? And actually, how frequently do you do it? Mac.
Yeah, so we have walking, like a little walking group at work at lunchtime. So twice a week, a group of people meet at the bottom of the stairs and just for 20 minutes just to go for a quick walk, just have a chat with people as well. It's actually we talk about work when we're walking, but it's actually really productive because people that would normally email, we talk, so that's good. And then personally, I have my radio on all the time, and that just gives me if you walk past my office, you can hear a really bad rendition of songs being sung by myself.
Good, wonderful. Well, thanks for that, Matt. And is this, you able to do this quite frequently? And you say, so it's once a week, your walking group?
Do it twice a week.
Twice a week.
Do it twice a week. It's on a lunchtime, over the lunch break.
Yeah.
And it's just obviously anyone that feels like it. So sometimes we have 4 or 5, sometimes we'll have 12, 13, 14.
Oh, perfect. No, that sounds really absolutely excellent. And I agree with you with working. I mean, it's the same way that, and Jade will tell you, I'm a huge fan of walking meetings, you know, getting everyone to say, right, do we need to do this around the table or can we go out and walk about it? Because often it's that same thing that they tell us, you know, if we're trying to have a difficult conversation with a teenager or something, or somebody, a hard conversation with anybody, either driving or walking are the best ways because it's not confrontational, because you're not face to face, you're walking along and there are lots of distractions. So that's really, really good. And again, having your radio on, just something for your soul that just lifts you a little bit rather than just sort of the solitude, whereas other people just like to be in complete silence. And it's just such a great idea. So thank you for sharing that. And what I want you all to do is like take these away with you and actually think about these things, think how frequently you do them, but also with your teams, because it's a really good insight. Again, when we're seeking to understand, it's a really good insight to listen to them, to say, what do you do to reduce your stress? And it's quite a fun way of like normalizing everything, because people say things that sort of, you know, and like, you know, I was half expecting Mac, and Mac, I would have loved it if you had turned around and say, well, actually, Claire, I go camping every weekend and I find it absolutely delightful. I'm you know, but that is it, you know, but that's the difference. Vive la différence. And it's quite a nice way of saying, well, actually, no, I really, really hate that. Whereas it's like some people see cooking as really therapeutic. Other people see it as in a means to an end, you know. So it's a good way to open up conversation, but it's a even better way to get clues for your team, as in, oh, what they actually find quite challenging, but actually what they like. And again, that makes somebody feel listened to and valued. If not then, but 2 weeks time, you go and you turn around and say, oh, I thought of you the other day because I heard something on the radio and they were saying about these crochet patterns and things. And I thought, oh, I know who in the team would actually be really interested in that. That would be, you know, and so we'd go, oh, actually, I feel really, you know, really listened to then. Wonderful. Thank you, Jade. So what it looks like in practice then is that you create this psychologically safe work environment. And if you're not aware of what that is, that's a work environment where people feel that they can turn. That's making me feel uncomfortable, or actually I find that quite difficult, or I'm really struggling with this, or I think I might have made a mistake here. What none of us want, no matter when your shift may end, how long you've been working for, none of us as leaders want any members of our team to be going home thinking, I'm really, really worried about what she's going to say tomorrow because I think I've done it wrong. We want people to be able to come to us going, can I just check? We want people to say at the time, do you know what? I didn't understand that. What really, and it's again, I'm not annoyed with them, I'm annoyed with me. That's me holding the mirror up to myself. When I'm going out of a meet, you know, when people are leaving from a meeting and then you see them sort of huddling outside and then it's a bit, so what was it she asked us to do again? When was it that we needed to get that in? And I've said, has anybody got any questions? Has anybody got any points of clarification? And everyone's gone, no, fine. And then they go out and then the first thing they do is, so what was it we needed to do? And you just sort of think, well, hold on a minute. Or if I present something as a fait accompli, and then you think, well, and they go out and they go, well, that's never going to work, is it? Because they haven't had an opportunity to discuss it. We need to create that psychologically safe work environment where people can say, do you know what, I really see where you're coming from, but I'm struggling to see where that would fit with the particular department that I'm working with or with my particular individuals that I support. And we provide accessible, non-judgmental support and advice. If somebody's turning around and saying to us, actually I'm really struggling with that, we want to roll our eyes and go, do you realise that, you know, they're paid to be a senior manager and they still don't understand that? How many people don't understand IT and don't put their hands up because they think, well, I've kind of got this far and I really ought to understand my way around Excel, but I don't really. You'll notice that I had no qualms when Jay turned around and said, I'll do it. So yeah, brilliant, wonderful. I didn't at any point think that somebody's going to turn around and say, oh, that Claire Mold, she's all right. But you know, she managed to mess up. She had one job to do. She had to share it and she didn't even able to do that. I stopped listening after then. Just clearly didn't know what she taught. I didn't mind. You know, this was brilliant. Somebody that was able to do it. Wonderful, brilliant. I'm really, really grateful. You know, we role model a healthy, sustainable, realistic work-life balance. None of this, oh, actually, yes, I'm the first one here. I'm the last one to leave. Oh, me? No, I don't take my holidays, thank you. No, I'll just be eating at my desk, thanks very much. Because who wants to be a leader that's just like that? Because A, you'll end up being depleted, and B, that isn't a good role model. So when we do the walking meetings, I tell you what, we set up a walking meeting. I won't be doing the walking group at lunchtime because I've got all this to get on with. You go, I'm far too important to that. You know, yes, occasionally we'll all say, oh, I've got a meeting, I can't go, or I can't do it, but make sure you don't ever, that you sometimes leave your desk and have your lunch and have a conversation and join in that, because people say that, turn around and say, actually, I've got to leave early today because I've got a, you know, because actually I'm looking after my mum at the moment because my dad's in hospital, so I need to go and do some caring there, or I've got a parents teacher event tonight. Let people, or I've got to take the car to the MT or something. Let people know that you are human as well, because again, if we're working 7 days a week, 24, you have got to do those human things at some point. So don't pretend that you haven't. Establish a work culture where breaks and annual leave are encouraged and discussed at one-to-one and monitored. The reason that we have them is to recharge. And I certainly know that the time that I'm away is probably some of my most productive time, because that's what I suddenly think, that would really, really help. Or no other reason that I come back and I'm probably a more pleasant person to be around. I remember somebody turned around to me once and they said, look, you've really got to take your holiday. And I said, no, but I don't need it. I'm really, really fired up. I'm honestly really in this. I want to see this through. And I genuinely did feel like that. And they go, no. You probably don't need the break, but your team need a break from you. You are working at 100 miles an hour at the moment. And actually give your team a week off from this, because you are so fired up about it. They can't keep up with you. And you don't realise, because you're so intoxicated by it. Yeah, you don't need a holiday, but they need a holiday from you. I mean, no offence taken, but it was actually really, really true. Our teams sometimes need a break from us, and it's a good role model. And also introduce accessible opportunities for good nutrition and exercise, as Matt has said. You know, get out and have some movement. I went upstairs the other day and I found all my team doing sort of funny. One of them was turning around and they're going, have I missed something? And they go, oh no, we're working on our core. We're having a 5-minute core break. And one of them was doing a plank against a desk, and one of them was turning around trying to keep their center of gravity. And it was brilliant. And then they just went back to work. I mean, you know, sometimes you walk and you think, I'm not going to say anything. But it was really good. And they said, no, we just all needed a break away from our desk, 5 minutes. And so we all did a different little core exercise, and then on we went. Thank you, Jade. We're going to start cantering through now because I'm conscious of time. So this is one to take away with you, because it's really important to describe your temperament with 3 adjectives. And then which 3 adjectives do you think others would use to describe your temperament? Okay, so you describe that like, you know, like mine would be clearly delightful, engaging, fascinating. I am being facetious, I should add modest to that. But actually, how would others describe you? Think really honestly about it. Describe your temperament with 3 adjectives. Which 3 adjectives do you think others would use? I do an exercise in another one of these where we actually turn around and say, when you're feeling really brave, actually ask other people how they would describe you and see whether it matches. And ask people that aren't going to be completely saccharine and go, oh no, you're fantastic, you are delightful, you are engaging, that they would tell you truthfully how you come across. But also be honest. Identify 3 behaviors you frequently demonstrate that do not reflect emotionally intelligent leadership. And I'm giving examples here because people sort of struggle with this, but then you sort of say it's that having do as I say but not as I do. You know, we expect people to, you haven't responded to that email I've sent you last week, well, whereas actually you frequently leave it a couple of weeks before you reply to emails because you're too busy, or with regard to the amount of annual leave you take, or the hours that you work, or in relation to how you communicate with people. Do you focus on too many things at once? And we're saying to our team, effective work, you know, the effective time management, just focus on this, otherwise you won't get things done. And yet we're juggling all of this. Pushing too hard on the task and forgetting the people. As leaders, think you're driving forward. Look behind your shoulder occasionally. Are they with you, or have you left them behind? Because you've got a deadline, or because we need to get this outcome, or because we've got to get there, or because this is where we want us to be. But are you taking people with you? Are you not giving clear direction or giving inconsistent direction? Because it is up there. I'm really, really clear where I need to go. Have I articulated that in a way that other people know where we're going as well? Or am I just assuming they are because this has had time to sit with me? Has it sat with other people? Allowing people who aren't performing the job to remain. And by that, the best way to get rid of good employees is hold on to the bad ways. If we're grumbling about people, saying, well, look, you really need to be line managing this person to do this, and yet we've got people on our own team that we need to get rid of. So take that away, think of it. Jade, we're cantering through now. We're getting there. We're exactly where we needed to be, but I just want to focus on this bit. So basically, a positive impact emotionally intelligent leadership has on it is you have an engaged and predominantly content workforce. Have a look at your workforce. Would they describe themselves? Would you describe them as engaged and predominantly content? The reason I say predominantly content is because actually people will bring stuff from home, or they might be doing a task that they don't like. I came in the other day to the office and the dishwasher had broken, and there was all, you know, suds and everything there. And that's a more around lunchtime example to give. I'm sure we can give other examples around personal care where other less polite things than a dishwasher breaking is, but you're rolling up your sleeves and you're getting wet and you're trying to do it, and actually start today thinking, oh great, was I content? Well, predominantly I am, but I didn't particularly enjoy doing that, you know. And like I say, there are examples around helping with personal care and other things that I don't need to elaborate on, that, yeah, I'm not desperately, you know, it doesn't make me sing when I do that task. It's you know, an unenviable task. But there's a constructive, vibrant work environment. You can feel it. You are the barometer. You set the weather in your room? You know, is it vibrant? Yes, people are challenging and people are working hard and people are, you know, bang, bang, bang. It's really getting on with things and people are having difficult conversations, but is there a vibrance there? Do you go up and suddenly, in the middle of everything, suddenly find them doing planks, you know, against their desk? Because they go, no, we needed 5 minutes time out. And then it's as they were. Effective teamwork, creating an impetus for organisational growth. Improved recruitment and retention. We'll talk about this in my recruitment and retention one later on in the programme. But word of mouth is the best way to recruit people and to keep people. Happy people stay, happy people talk about the organisation. Demoralised people also talk about the organisation. If people are meeting up for a coffee or a drink after work and they go, thank God for that, it's been absolutely awful. And then they go on to say, because I've done this, but it was really good. I had a really, really supportive team with me. And we're getting there. And I'm really lucky to work with such a great gang of people. Or if they go, do you know what? I'm glad to be out of that place. I did this and this, and it was really, really hard and demoralising. But, you know, I've got a line manager that doesn't even understand it. They don't even realise how difficult it is. People can say, well, I don't really want to go and work with you then. I don't think I'd ever want to work there. Whereas other thing, you go, blimey, I've got a real awful manager. Is there any jobs going at your place? Improved recruitment and retention that leads to increased productivity. And I hate to say it, greater profitability, because we're not spending money on having to bring in agency staff because we've got people off sick. We're able to say people want that. We've got our recruitment is through the ceiling. We're not having to spend loads and loads having to cover. So it leads to greater profitability. We often don't like to think about profitability, but profitability leads to sustainability. Thank you, Jade. So your takeaway is this is having an honest, and this is you. This is the starting point of an emotionally intelligent leader, is holding the mirror up to yourselves. And like I say, all of these I've done so you can transfer them on to your team. Would you describe your workspace as a psychologically safe working environment in all its different components, being honest? Do you provide accessible, non-judgmental support and advice? Do you role model a realistic work-life balance? And then identify what you need to do to improve this. Because I've certainly, and I've often sort of shared this before, that, you know, I would say that I create a psychologically safe work environment, but somebody who's new to me said, actually, you can be quite intimidating. And again, I was saying, well, can I remind you, I'm not, I'm delightful. But it's that bit that you think, but actually it's because I was so passionate about something. Someone goes, yeah, but you're so passionate about everything, and you've got so much energy, that can actually be quite intimidating to people that kind of don't come to work with quite so much passion as you, Claire. Maybe dial that down a bit. So what I thought was, but I'm creating a brilliant cycle. I wasn't, I was being, you know, intimidating. So what did I need to do to improve that? And write a time-framed action plan to implement this. So we are doing something about it. Okay, you have all of these slides so you can go. So the final one then, honestly, who got them right? Who noticed that Mars was a planet that was missing? Well done, well done, well done. Fantastic, good, good. I mean, it might be that you don't know the planets. I'll be honest with you, I had to look twice on the Henry VIII's wives. So well done, everybody. But it's a good one to say. And then Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jade Seymour, Anna, please. Did you notice which Catherine was missing? I'm very, very honestly shaking your head there. I must admit, I struggled on that one as well, Mac, and anyone else that's shaking their head, because I was thinking, well, we've got a couple of Catherines. Well, how many Catherines were there?
We've aced this.
It is. It's tricky. It's tricky. You know, it is that one. But this is the thing about actually, you know, did I listen to this? But you can do whichever ones that you want to. And then I put that in because some people will get that, some people won't. And then the horoscope one, who identified that Libra was missing.
Yeah. We have aced this.
We've got all three.
We've aced
Well
it.
done.
Not to toot our own horn, but we're tooting it.
Brilliant, fantastic, fantastic. That's it. There we go. You see, that's it. So, so set your own, have a look. But that's it. It's about listening carefully and knowing. And I've done those because there's generally some that, because obviously I didn't want to do that and go and just highlight, you know, what you don't know. So I tried to do a cross section so at least somebody knew something, because the whole point of it is listening carefully. And do toot your horn. Make sure you toot your horn. So it is 2:30. I promised that we would finish at 2:30. If anybody has got any questions that they want dealing with now, I am very happy to stay on the call and have that conversation with you. If not, all my details will go out. I genuinely don't mind if anybody sort of, and some people do afterwards sort of do meet up with me on LinkedIn. But the reason I say that is, yes, it's nice to connect on LinkedIn, but also if anyone wants to put something in LinkedIn and ask me a question, or say, oh, could we just have another time? It's genuine. I want you to be able to internalize this and move forward. Because I also know after a power hour saying, have you got any questions? It's a bit, oof, gosh, or I've got to dash off. So do stop me on by one another time. And, you know, through LinkedIn or through that, or even just keep the conversation going. This is the first of these sessions. So hook into the others. So thank you so much. Handing over to Jade, because we're eating into 30 seconds of your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Claire. Thank you everyone that's attended today. Claire and I hope that we met your expectations. I'll drop everything in an email to you rather than keep you online now. But if you did want to hear more from Claire, she's talking at our International Women's Day event on the Friday, the 7th of March. We'd love to see you there. It's a drop-in session. I'll email you the rest of the details, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the 21st of March for episode 2 of this workshop series, which is all about establishing and nurturing emotionally intelligent teams. Until then, take care, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a lovely weekend when it comes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you next time.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Claire.
Take care, Jade. My absolute pleasure.
I'll email you that catch-up date. Take care. Bye.
Go safely. Bye-bye.
Oh, the Teams is frozen. Why is it frozen?